Oh, Ah? Emmy. Gargoyles take one. Hi, I'm Emmy.
And I'm James.
And welcome back to the Bestiary Monster Manual A through Z. And James, what are we discussing today?
I feel I can't follow up that level of theatricality. It's the Gargoyle.
We're never theatrical here. It is indeed the Gargoyle, an elemental summoned monster, particularly noted for its nasty and cruel ways and its propensity to follow equally cruel masters.
Indeed. Gargoyles are not created as such. They initially come into being on the elemental plane of Earth as the evil elemental Earth prince Olgremoch, we think is how you say that.
Seems right.
Stomps around, just being generally evil and stompy. The shards of elemental evil of his form occasionally will be, sprinkled throughout the plane, where they will eventually form into these gargoyle creatures. So they are formed of pure evil, and so that somewhat dictates their nasty and cruel nature. And then obviously a capable spellcaster might summon them from the plane of Earth to do their bidding. Often, obviously, they are installed on the sides of buildings and things, like to be guards and sentinels. We've been covering quite a lot of these kind of things recently.
Yeah, we're really stuck in that part of the alphabet, I guess. It's just popular right here in like the early mid of the alphabet to put guards and sentinels in.
Hey, G for gargoyle, G for guard.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Even in the lore here, in the monster manual, it is said that people still put gargoyles up on their buildings as a way to intimidate passers-by and keep folks out, with the idea that, these might be gargoyles, or sort of as a superstition to keep evil out, much in the way that they sort of were.
People actually did.
In actual buildings. But again, that leads to that sense of you could just be walking by 1,000 gargoyles in a campaign, and at some point one of them ends up actually being a gargoyle. If you look at the art on this guy, it's pretty straightforward. Gargoyle.
I mean, it's a gargoyle. It's what you would probably expect one to look like. I do think, though, that while, again, it's obviously a pretty straightforward piece of art, it does quite well capture the nature of these things. They are formed almost as mockeries of creatures of the plane of air, because of course they are heavy stone, but they can fly. They have a fly speed of 60 feet, just in the way that the wings are being spread, that kind of pose. There's a particularly sort of gleeful malice in its face, almost, I think.
The expression is definitely my favorite part. There's very much the nature that is described here in the Monster Manual, which is that they delight in torturing small animals and general nasty,
cruelty,
horrible, cruel things. The way the mouth is held, the little tongue hanging out there, he just looks kind of nasty and gross and awful. I mean, these guys, on their own, they're challenge rating 2. So they're intimidating enough, especially because you're probably not going to fight one.
Yeah, there's almost always going to be a few of these.
So that in itself can be particularly intimidating, but one in and of itself is just got that, get away from me, you're just kind of gross feeling, and that's portrayed pretty well.
Yeah. Obviously, as with lots of creatures, they can serve as a way of enhancing the ambience and kind of the tone of a campaign. It will come as no surprise to anybody who knows anything about the Curse of Strahd campaign that there are gargoyles in that. They are obviously of that very gothic horror tradition, and if you do want to sort of wrong foot your players at certain points, then having there be lots of gargoyles, and some of them real, some of them fake, you always want to keep your players on on their toes in terms of what they think might be real and what might not be.
This makes total sense. I mean, they're so nasty and awful, but also beautiful, and in a very literal way statuesque. They're going to appear in an environment that makes complete sense. And if they have been summoned we've been talking again a lot about guardian animals and the kind of people that summon guardian monsters and what kind of guardian would be interesting or appropriate for the kind of things they're trying to keep. Anyone who summons one of these nasty creatures is probably nasty in and of themselves. So they're not going to be hanging around some wizard who just, is generally a nice dude, but also really wants you to stay out of their stuff. They're probably not going to summon gargoyles. So if you run into one of these guys, you can assume there's probably something nastier after them.
Yeah, I mean, they are, as I said, formed of pure elemental evil. They are listed as chaotic evil in the description. So, this is one of those cases where there is no question about it. These things are evil, and so then the person summoning them has to be somewhat kind of in tune with that. So, yeah, seeing one of these things, encountering them, and as we say, you're probably going to encounter multiple of them, very clear sign that bad stuff is afoot. Thank you once again for your most excellent company here at the Bestiary Monster Manual A to Z. Ever fought a gargoyle? Ever questioned whether those ones that you see in real life are real or not? Let us know in the comments down below. And while you're there, you will find links to our various social medias, including our Patreon. A big thank you to all of those who are already our patrons, and we highly encourage you to join their most excellent number. There you will also find the usual subscribe button. There you'll find the bell to be notified of when we release new videos. Obviously, we'd appreciate if you gave this video a like. It does help. Check out some other content here and come back next week for when we start discussing that most mysterious of creatures, the genies.